Most men think that they really know their partners. Let me ask you a question. What are your partner's 3 deepest fears? Not her general worries or frustrations, the real things that are her deepest core fears. If you don't know the answer to that, or there's been a bit of a gap or hesitation, this episode is going to be for you. What's up? Welcome to another episode of the Father, Sons, Brothers podcast. This is episode 2 in a 4-part series called The 4 Pillars of Relationships, and we're unpacking the 4 primary components that every successful relationship is built on. We had a great response to the first episode we did last week, which is about the inner work, and today we're talking about the lost art of true intimacy. Matt's joining me from Spain today. How are you, bro?
Doing good, brother. Yeah, here in Spain, sunny day. My wife is out hiking, which is amazing. So I can record this podcast. And yeah, bro, feeling good.
So let's dive straight into this topic. We were talking offline about whether we actually do know our partner's 3 greatest fears, and recognizing that intimacy is quite often for a lot of men confused with sexuality. Meaning, for a lot of men, we believe that connection comes from physical contact, and we think that sex is how we receive that. But really, as a human being, a lot of our desire to be seen and to feel connection is really our desire to be seen for who we are. And when we get those 2 pieces mixed up, we quite often believe that when we feel uncomfortable or have a desire for connection, that we lead with eros, meaning we want to connect with somebody erotically, but quite often we just want to be seen for who we are. And I've definitely had this in my own life. And I think one of the challenges that we have with true intimacy is recognizing, for me, in the way that we teach it inside the academy, intimacy is about truth. Can I be seen for who I really am in every single moment with my partner without any masks? Not pretending stuff's fine, or looking after everybody else first. Bringing the most true, authentic version of myself to me, to my partner, so that she can feel safe. You mentioned earlier the frame of words matching energy, and how significant that lesson's been for you, Matt.
Well, my wife is a highly sensitive person, which means she's super intuitive around what she feels. And we have a pattern where if I am feeling triggered or I am preoccupied by something with work and I'm trying to like gut my way through it and I'm not bringing my authentic truth in that moment, that she sees right through it. She calls it straight out that my words aren't matching my energy, which is at first it used to be super triggering, like, what the fuck, like, because I think I'm holding it together. Clearly, I'm not.
Yeah.
And that's been my pattern, right? Thinking I'm holding it together. But what I've noticed is now that I'm comfortable with that, when she brings that, it allows me to check in and be like, no, what's really going on with me, and to take off that mask and to show up in my authenticity, and through that I am seen, and that builds the intimacy, that builds the connection, and through that connection comes the safety to then go into to sexual intimacy. Like that's the chain for me.
That
And
is the
yeah,
chain.
powerful piece.
Yeah, that is the chain. And this is where a lot of intimacy breaks down. And I think the best way to think about it is that, for the masculine to want sexual connection, there just needs to be desire. But for the feminine, there needs to be safety. And what you're talking about is safety comes when your words match your energy. That means that for the feminine to feel genuinely safe, to be able to relax and to be able to open, she needs to know that you're genuinely there, that you're super present. We spoke about presence in the previous episode. But really, to be able to have your words match your energy is when she feels genuinely safe. And you can't do that if you don't bring your authentic expression, what's genuinely alive for you right now. And what tends to happen is, like, a man might feel lonely or feel emotionally disconnected or invisible. And he translates that hunger, that desire to be seen, into desire. He wants to connect with somebody, and his partner doesn't feel safe to let him in, and so she rejects him because she doesn't feel 100% safe. And that's what loops and loops and loops. That rejection is what eventually kills the intimacy. And quite often men in a relationship are like, the buzz has gone out, there's no spark, we're not making love anymore. But he's not creating the space to be authentic and create this genuine intimacy of showing up. And maybe you want to share what we notice inside the academy and doing men's work, why men have a block, why men don't feel safe to be able to show up in their truth, bro.
Well, I think for a lot of guys, me included, especially in my 20s, it wasn't safe to be emotional. To show emotions gives especially other men, depending on your social structure and the circles that you run in, but like being emotional can be used against me. In my 20s, if I was an emotional human being, it would be used against me in the workspace. I'd be made fun of at the bars with my buddies. And so, yeah, being efficient at putting on that mask was the piece. And now that I do men's work and I sit in a circle at least twice a month, I am practicing the art of taking off that mask, speaking my truth, and standing in it. Being in a safe container where I can really own what it is that I'm going through, really own my fears, really get in touch with my desires is it's sort of like the practice ground to do that, so that when I show up to my relationship, whether it's my intimate partnership or someone I'm meeting for the first time, I can be in touch with a level of truth that I can express that can create connection, whether it's with my romantic partner or even just people I meet. Like my ability to really be who I am is honed in those men's circle containers. I think there's a lot of power in that.
As young boys, we were told, not to show any emotions, just to strap it on and to get on with it. I think there's a saying in South Africa, put on your big girl panties. Like, don't show your emotions, just get your shit together and hold it, And I think that's a lot of where this challenge comes in. As you said, a lot of men think that it's a weakness to show vulnerability or to show up in their truth or to share that when something's not going well. And what we touched on in the first pillar was recognizing that everything outside of ourselves, everything we see in the world, is a reflection of the relationship that we have with ourselves. And what Matt's touching here is this piece around vulnerability and creating safety with our partners always starts here. Because when you sit in a space like a men's circle, where one of the only agreements is that you show up in truth, we don't want to, if you're having a great day, amazing. If you're having a shit day, bring that. All we want is your authentic self. When you speak authentically what's alive for you in your world right now, free from any masks, free from any pretending or performing, other parts of your body and your nervous system start to relax because you're telling the truth. You're completely in your ease and in your flow. And when somebody else does that, and what Matt said there is your words match your energy, the other person notices it. So when you sit down with a brother and you're having beers, and Matt says to me, "Hey, bro, how's it going? How's work?" And I'm really stressed about money, and I'm like, "Oh, fine." That's inauthentic. It's a mask. It's not true, and it completely destroys the trust. And there's like there's a disharmony in that transaction because Matt's asking how I am. He feels my energy of contraction because I don't want to talk about money or whatever is alive in me in that moment, and I say something different. It's a lie, and it breaks the trust. When I practice that, when I start to be truthful with myself, my nervous system rests because I'm telling the truth. I'm not putting on a mask. I'm being authentic. That's the practice. When I feel safe enough to bring that to my relationships, the other person feels it and they feel safe as well. And that's where the feminine really starts to, as I said, relax and ease into the connection. And then she feels safe to be able to open, to share her own stories, her deepest fears, what's alive for her, to bring those threads. And then intimacy is downstream of that.
Yeah, definitely. And you started the episode with these three fears. Do I know the three fears of my partner? If I'm hesitating. And I did there, right? And I think there's really three levels of knowing your partner, right? There's the surface level, this idea of understanding how to operate and how to, what she wants to eat or how she wants to spend her day. There's the
Yeah, general
emotional side, which
preferences.
is kind of what we're getting at now.
Yeah.
Yeah, of feelings and fears, and then there's understanding like who's really beneath this person. What is their essence, and those layers are the key to unlocking intimacy. Like if you're staying on the surface level with your partner, it's easy to stay up there and have this mask to mask relationship, and the art is unmasking.
It's exactly that. One of the pieces that we teach is that proximity doesn't equal intimacy. Just because you live in the same house as somebody and you know what they like to order every single time you get Chinese, that's not intimacy. That's the surface level that Matt's touching. To really get to know their essence is to understand their core wounds. We spoke in the first episode of this series about doing the inner work and recognizing what your own core wounds are. And inside the academy, we have an entire section of getting to know yourself by using this analogy of an inner kingdom where you really get to know all the parts of yourself. That second level that Matt is touching there around the emotional connections is, what are your partner's core wounds? What are the things that make them feel uncomfortable? What are the things that keep them awake at night? And then really at a different level, that third layer of the essence is, who is your partner? What is their soul calling? What have they come here to do? And quite often, your relationship vision, like when you come together in a marriage of like, why are we doing this partnership? You get the opportunity to really connect to that. So what are we doing on this beautiful life that we have together? Why are we going on this adventure? You really get to know those parts. And this should become the guiding star for your relationship of why you're doing this. We want to have kids. We want to build a business together. We want to awaken consciousness, we want to travel, whatever those things are, those become the essence of who you are. And in your container, you get to meet your partner in this place, and everything flows downstream from there.
Agreed, bro. So what do we do from here?
Well, for those who want to learn more about this, the reason that we're creating these 4 episodes is really to support this powerful training that we created called the Magnetic Masculine Masterclass. And this is really the one of the pieces that support you not only to understand what we call the 6 core mother wounds, so that you can recognize your own internal patterns and see how you might be blocking intimacy as a function of the way that you were brought up. Maybe you didn't have a space to be able to share your authentic truth because your love was conditional, and so you held that back. You may have a desire to show up in your relationship with intimacy. You may resonate with everything that Matt and I have been saying in this episode, but if you don't know how to identify that core mother wound that's showing up, you will never be able to break through, and you'll always have these surface level connections. We'll include a link to the Magnetic Masculine Masterclass in the show notes for this episode. And hit that link. It's going to open up a WhatsApp message. Press send. You'll immediately get a reply, and you can register for the masterclass. It takes 60 minutes, and it's probably the most important 60 minutes that your relationship will go through, if not ever, but definitely this year, by getting to recognize these underlying patterns that are preventing and blocking intimacy in your life. And once you shift those pieces, it's going to shift everything in your relationship.
Right, and as you go through that container of the Magnetic Masculine Masterclass, you're also going to be invited to come to one of the live events that we're doing, which is inside the Academy. And in those live events, you'll have the opportunity to take the mask off with other men in a safe container and work on that art that we're talking about of speaking authentically and building true intimacy. So, looking forward to seeing you guys there. Gareth,
One last
thank you
piece I'm just
for
going to share. Thank
the
you for
time
bringing
together.
that, because one of the elements that we've got inside all of the trainings that we create is really creating our entire experience around the 3 S's of transformation. And the 3 S's of transformation start with S. The first S is self. The self-awareness that you want to change something. If you're listening to this episode and resonating with anything that we're saying, there's a self-awareness that something needs to shift. And the second part of that first self is self-responsibility. That means you've got to do something. You've got to show up and make the changes that need to make in order to create the transformation that you're looking to change in your relationship. So that's the first S, self-awareness and self-responsibility. The second S is a system. What am I going to do? How am I actually going to do this? You're actually going to do this by following the Magnetic Masculine Masterclass. This is like the map that shows you exactly what needs to shift to go through the transformation. The third S is called support, and that's what Matt's talking about. You're going to also unlock an entire community of men that are doing the masterclass alongside you and are sharing their own experiences. Your body naturally has a way that it wants to stay in homeostasis. It doesn't want to change. It takes effort to change. And quite often you'll fall back into old habits if you don't have the support. And so you may have the desire to change. You may even have the process of how to change. But if you don't have somebody to hold you accountable and support you, you fall back into your old habits and your relationship will continue exactly the way that it is. This cycle of transformation moves through these phases. So once you've gone through support, you'll reassess self-awareness. How has this shifted in my relationship? You'll revisit the map, the system that we shared, and then you'll get the support again to continually improve your relationship. So Matt, thank you so much for being part of this training. I'm so excited to share the second one. And we're going to be dropping in here, same time, same place next week. And we're going to be sharing the third pillar of how to build a stable relationship in this 4-part series.
Look forward to it. See you there, guys.
Till next week. Ciao.